FX Nation, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel, and we're going to go ahead and take a look on this video into some of the trade setups from last night or from this morning during London session, and there was a ton of them, so we got a lot of work to do. So first of all, let's just go ahead and jump right into the setups here. A lot of them we discussed in our chat. Again, if you're not part of the chat, all you have to do is just go to the website, fxntrading.com, sign up for a free membership, and then you'll get the email with the free link to join the chat. So if you haven't done that, go ahead and do that. The links will be in the description. But AUD NZD last night, what we can see here, we had a type 3 setup on this after our Asian range. You can see here's our Asian range here. And then we ended up getting an M formation here, right in the middle of the range. So there was your setup right there for a type 3 setup. Okay, and so essentially this went all the way down. You could have gotten your 30 pips right here, and you could have gotten out, or if you stayed in it long enough, you could have written it out all the way to the bottom here. And if you did that, that would have been, close to 70 pips on that one trade. Now, granted, this is, 7:15 in the morning or so, so it's like you had to have handled all this stuff here. And I'll tell you what, a lot of people did not want to hold on to the trade that long, which is fine. And they got out at Blueberry, so they got 14 to 15 pips out of it. Regardless, it's a trade setup. It's a clear trade setup that you got, and so it's still a good trade. AUD CAD, we had a type 1 setup here. We see the Asian range here, and then we see the price fall below the Asian range here, and then we actually see a nice railroad track right here, and that produced a nice 30 pips out of that particular trade there from railroad tracks on a type 1 setup. AUD Swiss, we had a very similar setup to what we had on AUD NZD, and that was a type 3 setup where we ended up getting price completely during Asian session, just blew out the water here, and it basically came back up in the middle of the range and made an M formation. And then this would have been essentially your trade here. So back to Blueberry. So that was about 20 pips or so on that particular trade. Again, type 3 setup, clear M formation forming to go down on that particular setup. Okay. AUD USD, very similar setup. Same thing. Most of all of the AUD pairs did most of the same thing during Asia, and it's they went down quite a bit, so about 34, 35 pips. Some of them even went down 50 pips. But on this one here, you can see that we did go all the way down, came back up to the middle of the range again, created an M formation, and then the trade setup would have produced same thing, about anywhere from 20 pips or so, depending on where you got in there or out of the trade there. So a lot of trades on AUD USD. We also had Euro Pound. This was actually mentioned out in the chat, and we had somebody in the chat mention, "Hey, look at the Euro Pound. It's pinning to the Mayo." So sure enough, we took the trade, and it produced a very nice trade out of the box there. So the first one produced 30 pips. If you held it to the second one, it would have been 60 pips. But still produced a very, very nice trade setup there. So on Euro USD, we ended up getting a nice W formation there. First leg here. So we ended up getting this here. There's your W, and there's your trade there. We ended up second leg railroad tracks here, and you can see the second leg here. What the big banks did is they went ahead and they spiked it down. They stopped on it down to get more sellers to come into the market so they can do the buy orders for this one here. So, but not a bad trade at all. Very clear pattern to do a trade setup on. That ended up being about 25 pips or so, depending on where you got into the trade there. Euro CAD, this one you could have had essentially two different trades, but the real trade was as you can see here, a type 3 setup with a star formation here, coming out of the morning towards the US session. But there was a little bit of a setup here like this, where you could have potentially seen an M formation, but the problem with this trade is, according to the rules, you needed the second half of the M here to get into it early. You needed to be either basically a railroad track, and we didn't get that here. So you would have had to waited another like 30-45 minutes or so to get into it after cross catch up, and at that time really it really didn't make a lot of sense to get into it. So that was not a good setup to get into it. What was a good setup was this one here, going all the way back up here after the star formation, and that particular trade produced around 40 pips or so, depending on where you got in at. But you could have gotten it out of the first one here. That's your 30 pips there. So definitely not a bad setup there on Euro CAD. Euro NZD, as you can see here, we got a nice type 1 setup here with the M formation, and that produced a nice trade for us. Gave us about 52 to 53 pips. Again, depending on where you got out of that particular trade. But again, very nice clear setup here they took advantage of. Euro AUD. Euro AUD gave us essentially two trade setups back to back. So we first had this one here. So we had this one here first. This one produced about 45 pips or so straight down. And then the second one was pinning to the Mayo and railroad tracks. So this one produced another 50 up. So two trades, one pair, back to back from each other, which is awesome. So on this one was a type 1 setup here. Took it down and then came right back up on it after pinning to the mayonnaise. The next trade setup was on USD CAD. And a couple things that we did on USD CAD is this one. There was two trades that we took. One of them was this one here down to water. That one was about 15 or so pips, depending on where you got in at. But the bigger trade here was the one right after it with railroad tracks as a type 3 setup. And we basically moved back up. That was a good 30 pips if you kept it on the first run. Now, if you take a look, actually, if we clear this up, we essentially ended up getting a nice W formation there. Okay, second leg railroad tracks, and you would have taken that up. So that's another 30 pips or so there. Pound Swiss gave us a nice W formation coming out of Asia, and as you can see here, got the first leg, second leg, and that ended up producing 40 pips on the first wave up. Second wave up was 80 pips. So just depending on which one you caught, depending on whether you got 40 or 80 out of it. But nice clear setup, which was the important part about the trades here, is that they're nice, they're clear, and you can see them. And then finally we had another nice W formation here on USD Jappy, and that gave us another nice trade for about 55 to about 64 pips, depending on where you got in at on this particular one. So again, very nice setup on pound JPY. This was a type 2 setup here as we were basically at the bottom of the Asian range. We didn't pass the Asian range, so that helped us identify a type 2 setup here on this particular pair. So not a bad trade setup there either. So a lot of trade setup, guys. A lot of small little trades during for AUD pairs and also Euro pairs. But again, overall, you had plenty of trades to go into. So perfectly fine to get into any of those trades, guys. So I hope that that you learned some different setups here or by looking at them. If you haven't done so, guys, you can use the replay feature on TradingView to replay the charts, and you can replay and do backtesting on this, so you can get better acquainted as far as seeing the patterns as they develop during a London session and US session. Something I highly recommend that you do and take advantage of it. So I'll have a link in the description for TradingView if you have not signed up for it. Awesome platform, and if you use Oanda or Forex.com as your broker, you can actually trade directly off of it as well. So very cool feature as well. But that's pretty much it for today, guys, with the trade setup. So hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time. Guys, one last thing. Thank you so much for watching my videos. I really appreciate the fact that you take the time to watch my videos. I really hope that I've added value in each of the videos that I make for you guys, and I hope that you're learning something. As always, guys, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. Please like and share the videos if you found value in them. And also, don't forget to visit our website at www.fxntradinggroup.com. Once again, guys, thank you so much. I'm truly blessed.